Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this short session that we have today. So we have 7 days to CET 2024, and this is for the benefit of all those of you who are preparing for the Maharashtra MBA MMS CET of 2024. Right, so all of you would be knowing that the admit cards were out a couple of days back, and so now we have clarity on which slot do we have and which date do we have when we are supposed to take the test. So with that knowledge, what exactly is it that you should be doing in the last 7 days to CET 24? So I'm assuming some of you will be taking it on the 9th of March, the 10th of March and the 11th of March. So depending on the slot that you have got, you would be taking on one of these 3 dates. So we thought that we'll touch base with all of you and try to see what exactly is it that you should be doing in these last or these 7 days or the last week that leads to CET 2024. We are also connected on Instagram for all our viewers here. So I'll also be having a look at some of the queries that I can look at in the duration of this session. But otherwise, I'll be focusing mostly on YouTube and I'll see what all queries do we have, and we'll try to take some queries towards the end. So initially what we are planning to do is I'll have a small 3-slide PPT that I will run you through. And then at the end of it, of course, we can take some questions. We can try to see what exactly is it that you need help with. And there is some specific suggestion that I can give you, then I would be more than happy to do that. Right. So to start with, I'll just introduce myself. I am Shashank Prabhu. You might have seen me in some of the videos that are related to CET on the YouTube channel that we have. So I would have done a live mock solving that is there, some videos. You would have seen me in best of CET and all those things. So I take special interest in CET and I have taken the CET a lot of times in the past. I have been a 7-time CET 99.99 percentiler. I haven't taken it in the last couple of years for various reasons, but yeah, this is basically a streak that I have been sitting on. So without further ado, let's look at the slides that I have prepared. So I've just divided it into 3 parts. One is prep plan for the last week. The second slide will focus on what should you do on the day before the test or just before the test. And the last slide will focus on things that you should do during the test. Right? So there are these 3 things that are there. So to start with the prep plan for the last week, we are talking about it at a section level now, right? So at this point in time, you should have absolute clarity on the kind of questions that you are extremely comfortable with, the kind of questions that you are not so comfortable with. And it is very, very, very important for you to be completely aware of ways to solve the questions that you are extremely comfortable with, and the ones that you don't know, obviously you should avoid at the first glimpse of having that kind of a question, right? So let's say, for example, you're looking at the quant section and you see a very complicated graph with numbers in the form of 38.97, 37.53 and so on. And the question asks you what is the percentage change from year 1 to year 2, and the options are in the form of 1.73%, 1.86% and so on. These are obviously questions that you should avoid. Now there is no 2 ways about it. You should not really think about it ki nahi, I have done these kind of questions in the past. I know that I'm not very comfortable with these kind of calculations, but this is a new day. This is the test, the final day of the test. So I have to at least attempt it before I decide to leave it. Not at all. Whatever experience you have gathered over the last few months, you have to know that that experience counts for a lot. And that is relevant, and the test is going to be similar to what you have experienced in the past. So don't really think of it as a completely different day and try to do something different than what you would have been doing otherwise. So don't do all those kind of things. Just make sure that you are focused on your awareness in terms of what your strengths are and what your areas of improvement are, right, or weaknesses are. So make sure that whenever you find a question that is one of your strengths, attempt it as quickly as is possible with the method that you know is the best for you to attempt that particular question, and go ahead. And whenever it comes to a question which is one or question type that is one of your weaknesses, skip it at least in the first round. Maybe you can come back to it later if you have time left, but do not focus on solving the difficult questions at the beginning, simply because your score is going to be in the form of a pyramid. Now all the easier questions will be at the bottom, which will be your foundation, then slightly difficult questions, then slightly more difficult questions, and then the most difficult questions. Now, if you start solving only the most difficult questions, there will be no foundation. Also, people who would not have prepared seriously for the test. So our estimate is that more than 1.5 lakh people would be taking the test this year, or somewhere close to that number will be taking it this year. The people who would not have prepared formally for the test in any capacity will solve only those questions that they are supremely comfortable with. And those will be the questions that are the easiest ones. Now you are going to get only 1 mark for every correct answer. If you solve a difficult question, it's not as if you are going to get 2 or 3 marks for it. No, right? So you have to solve all the easy questions at the beginning, build your base, and then build on top of it. So the last 5 questions will benefit you and make you stand apart from the population if you have built your base. Otherwise, you are not gaining anything. In fact, you are losing valuable time, right? So make sure that you have complete awareness at a section level as to what exactly needs to be done and what would you do or how would you react to every question type that you come across. The second bit is in terms of SimCETs. By now, I am assuming that you would have taken at least 10 or 12 SimCETs of the 20 that you had, right? So I'm assuming that you have done a lot of hard work till now. Now, over the last or the next 7 days, I would not suggest you to take more than 2 or 3 mock tests. Purely because in terms of SimCETs or in terms of mock tests, if you look at it, there is very little to add to your preparation in terms of content. It's mostly about reacting to situations, how to formulate an optimum strategy and how exactly to tackle the entire test. So that is very important. In terms of SimCETs, if you keep on attempting one SimCET every day, you are more or less tempting fate. Purely because there will be one day wherein you will not score as much as you would have expected, and then you will feel very bad about your effort in that particular test, right? So don't do that. If I were in your position, what I would have done is I would have taken 2 or 3 SimCETs in my last week just to stay in touch with my preparation and just to ensure that I am taking some tests in the time slot that I have been allocated. So if you are going to take the test in the afternoon slot, let's say from 2:30 to 5, let's say for example, then it would behoove you to solve a couple of SimCETs in that 2:30 to 5 p.m. slot, so that you know exactly what frame of mind you are in, how alert or sleepy will you be in, what exactly is your body clock, right? So all those things you can adjust to when it comes to your last week of taking SimCETs. Honestly speaking, if I were to share my experience when I took the CET for the first time, I did not solve more than 4 mock tests, right? So in my first mock test, so this was obviously way as in some 14 years ago that I'm talking about. But the first mock test that I took, I had scored somewhere around 130 marks. Then I scored somewhere around 135 marks. In the next test, I scored, so I got a bit worried that my score has got stuck in that 130, 135 range. So I decided to go all out, be very aggressive when I was attempting the test. Whenever I see a question, I will take a half chance and mark an answer even if I'm not sure of it, and keep on doing it till I reach question number 200. That helped me immensely, and I ended up getting some 155 in the third mock that I took. The fourth mock that I took, I ended up getting somewhere around 165 marks. At that point in time, CET used to be a lot easier than what it is right now. So these scores are of course inflated. But I scored 165. Then I got so scared of my performance in my mock tests that I stopped taking mock tests altogether, right? So I got so scared that the next mock test that I'm going to take, I'm not going to score as much as I had in the previous one. And that's why I stopped taking mocks altogether. What I did was I attempted the mock tests that were there in bunches of 50 questions. So I made it a point to attempt 50 questions in 30 minutes. That's what I kept on doing till the day of the test. And it helped me immensely on the final day of the test as well. And I ended up scoring well at the CET. Right? So that was basically what I did. I would suggest something similar for those of you who already know what it takes to score more than say 140 marks at a mock CET. So if you already experienced that, there is no need to tempt fate and overexert yourself and wait for that failure to happen, right? So don't do that. Confidence is very important when it comes to taking the actual test. Right? In terms of the last minute revision bit, so we will be having 4 sessions in the coming week. So I believe we'll be going live on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, 4 days in the coming week in the evening, wherein we'll be covering each of the 4 sections, so to say. So of course, CET no longer has those demarcated 4 sections, but broadly we know that all the questions from one that belong to a section are grouped together. So that is basically what you need to do as well. So we'll be having 4 sessions in the coming week. I thought that this will be a nice platform to share with you this update. So stay tuned for those sessions. We'll be covering some interesting questions from each of the 4 areas that are tested. So visual reasoning, quant, verbal and logical reasoning, right? So all 4 areas will be covered in these 4 sessions. You can also have a look at the live mock solving sessions that I had done this year and also the previous live solving sessions that I had done. So I believe I have been taking a mock almost every year, right? Last 3 years, I think I have been doing live mock solving for CET specifically. So what you can do is you can have a look at how I go about taking the actual test as well, and you can experience the sort of highs and lows of test taking, right? You can understand where is it that I decide to go a bit faster than usual, where is it that I take a backseat and read a question twice or thrice, where is it that I use options and try to desperately break my way out of trouble, right, when it comes to these mock solving sessions. So you can have a look at it. We'll put all the relevant links in the description below, and uh, of course in the bio when it comes to our Instagram audience. So that's basically what we will be doing. So have a look at these sessions. I'm sure you will get a lot of ideas in terms of how to attempt a test. And this year I did one novel thing. Of course, I wanted to challenge myself as well. Also, I wanted to show all those aspirants who believe that everything has to be written on a piece of paper, right? So the last live mock solving that I had done, I think maybe a week, 10 days back, I think I had done this. I did not use any rough work, right? So I did not write anything, including the LR section, data interpretation sets, logical reasoning questions, sequential output, syllogisms. For all the questions, I tried doing them mentally. And my score was not very different from what it was in the actual mock, wherein I had written down a lot of things. Obviously, that was also a surprise for me. But then, of course, you can try to see as to where is it that you can sort of look at questions in a manner where you don't need to write down a lot of things, right? So have a look at those things. So last week, what you can do is you can schedule 2 mocks, analyze them thoroughly, analyze all the previous mocks that you have taken, whatever question type that you have come across in the mocks, make sure that whatever you have attempted or believe that you should attempt at the actual CET as well, you have a proper plan of attempt, right? So you should know exactly. So whenever I see a sequential output question, let's say for example, what I will do is I will look at the first step. I'll try to understand how many numbers are there or how many digits are there, how many words are there, let's say for example. Then I will look at the last line. In the last line, I will try to see as to what exactly is the final sequence. Have the numbers been arranged in an ascending manner or a descending manner? The words have been arranged in an alphabetical manner or reverse alphabetical manner. Are we counting the number of letters that are there in a particular word? Are we counting the number of factors that are there for a particular number? Whatever be the case, right? Are we going from middle towards the end towards the middle, or we are trying to sandwich those two again from middle to end for both individual pieces? All those things I'll try to see in my second step, right? As in the last step of the sequential output, the second layer of thought will be that. Then I will look at the first output, right? So whenever there's an input, there will be the first output 1 that will happen, right? I'll try to look at it as to what exactly is happening in the first output. Now these 3 layers should tell me what exactly is it that is going on. If I'm in doubt, I will look at the second step as well, and beyond that I should not look at any steps, more or less, right? So that is one thought process that I have formed in my head. And that is exactly what I will go through when I am looking at an actual test as well, right? So have these kind of scenarios ready in your head. Whenever you come across a time that is asked, whenever you come across a visual reasoning question, try to see if there is, if it's a series based question, let's say for example, right? I did it in one of the questions in the last live mock solving session that I had done. What happened was the first image was there, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and the 6th image was asked. But the first and the 5th images were the same. So my answer has to be equal to the second image, and that was what I marked. I don't know if it was right or wrong, but that is one of the hacks that I use to solve these questions in a quicker manner, right? So all those things you should have in your mind. So just go through all these shortcuts that you know of, or all these scenarios that you would have come across, and have a clear way ahead when it comes to these things, right? Before the test, again, this is fairly straightforward. Make sure that you have analyzed your mocks well, as I mentioned earlier. You should know your preparation inside out, and that preparation counts for a lot. So don't second guess yourself, or don't try to be too ambitious on the day of the test and think that something different is going to happen today. So that is definitely not what's going to happen. So don't worry about those eventualities. In terms of travel and slot, make sure that you know where your center is before the day of the test. Make sure that you are aware of which slot you are taking the test in. Make sure that you account for the kind of things that might go wrong before your test. make sure that you're planning well in advance. If possible, visit your center if you don't know where it is. Make sure that you either visit it, look at it on Google Maps, talk to someone who has already been to that center, and so on. Make sure that you know where your center is, right? So that is something that you should be absolutely aware of. If you have any last minute bookings to do, make sure that you're doing it properly. It's okay to invest some money when it comes to making travel arrangements, because you have to be in the best frame of mind. If you try to save couple of thousand rupees, let's say, and cause yourself inconvenience, you will be hassled when it comes to the day of the test, and you don't want to take this test in that frame of mind. So even if it costs you 2,000 rupees more, I know it might be a lot of investment for some of you, but make sure that you are in the best frame of mind when it comes to taking this particular test. And of course, make sure that you are taking a couple of SIM-CETs in that particular slot, so that you are absolutely clear about what you go through when it comes to those 2.5 hours. In terms of last day preparation, I would suggest that you don't do anything special on your last day. Just make sure that you are following a routine, solve maybe 20-30 questions across all areas, maybe go through those last minute revision series sessions that we are going to have in the coming week, and you should be fine, right? Don't overexert yourself, don't try to take a mock on the day before the CET, because then it will basically be a bit more difficult for you. And this is very important. Depending on when you are going to take the test, your anxiety will go up and down. So make sure that you are not getting bothered by when you are going to take the test or any of your friends is going to take the test, right? If you are going to take the test on the 9th, brilliant, well and good. Be very happy about it, because you will not have anything to worry about. You will not have any benchmark that you need to chase, any number that you need to justify. कुछ नहीं करना है. Just go to the test with an open mind. Treat the test as SIM-CET 21. And you should be fine, right? So that's basically the frame of mind that you should go to the test when it comes to the 9th. Don't try to think a lot about what went wrong in the previous tests, or how CET had been mismanaged maybe a couple of years back, how there are questions asked from integration, derivatives, matrices, all those kind of things. वो सब नहीं सोचना है. If these questions come, great, skip them. It's a very easy decision for you to skip those questions. ठीक है? इससे easy decision करने मिलेगा ही नहीं, right? And even in the easiest test, I am pretty sure that most of us will not be able to attempt 200 questions genuinely. अपने genuine attempts typically 170, 175 तक होते हैं. Whoever be the taker, right? So 20-25 questions anyway you have to leave. Now instead of making that difficult decision कि which questions to leave, अगर derivatives आता है, अगर matrices आते हैं, अगर और कुछ आता है, let's say, right? Then it's very easy for you to leave those questions, because you know कि ये तुम आता ही नहीं है, तो क्यों करना, right? So it's a good place to be in if you get random questions asked. Not saying that they are going to be asked, but just be prepared for all eventualities. If you are going to take it on the 10th or the 11th, stick to one forum wherein the analysis is getting discussed. Don't try to look at 4 different people who will give you 4 different judgments when it comes to the test. One person will tell you that 120 cutoff, that was a super difficult paper. Another channel will tell you that 150 should be the cutoff because it was very close to CET 2020. Someone will tell you that it was extremely easy, CET 2017, CET 2019 जितना easy था जो भी है, right? And 165 ही जाएगा cutoff, right? So people will keep on telling you random numbers. Now which one to believe, you will get confused. When you go to the test, you see a difficult question, you will always believe the 120%. When you look at an easy question, you will always believe the 160 question. And this thing will keep on fluctuating during the test. And you will not know whether the paper is difficult or easy or whatever. Right? So don't do that. Stick to one bit of analysis. Make sure that you know that analysis inside out and you trust that person or that institute thoroughly. Right? और उतना करके छोड़ दो उसके बाद everything else is academic, honestly. Because अगर 5 fill in the blanks आए थे, then everybody is going to report that 5 fill in the blanks questions had, right? So don't bother about those things. Let go of those things, right? Don't keep on forming assumptions in your head, because the day you go and sit for the test, things might be slightly different, and you don't want to react to things like what people did, right? It's like driving a car by looking in the rear view mirror. So rear view mirror में देख के गाड़ी चलाओगे तो definitely will not be able to drive well. So make sure that you are thinking about it in that context. Okay? And the last bit, during the test, now in this case, if things are to repeat from the last few years, the order of attempt that I'm looking at is basically 1 to 200, right? If they have sort of inorganically divided it into sections, like what happens in many of the SIM-CETs as well. So SIM-CET के अंदर, let's say the first 75 questions are from the analytical reasoning or the logical reasoning section, right? ठीक है? तो 75 questions वहाँ से. 76 to 100 is, let's say, visual reasoning. 101 to 150 is, let's say, quant and DI, and 151 to 200 is, let's say, VARs, right? So although they will not be four different sections at the top of your test window or the question frame, you will always have questions arranged in this manner, right? But don't go to the test expecting कि ऐसे ही होगा करके. If this happens, great, good for you. If it doesn't happen, be ready for that eventuality as well. If the questions are divided into inorganic, now I say inorganic purely because randomly वो 75 या 80 पे खत्म हो सकता है logical reasoning section. Visual reasoning में you might have 15 questions, you might have 20 questions, you might have 25 questions, you never know, right? But if they have divided it inorganically, make sure that your order of attempt is decided beforehand. Now again, there are two broad ways to think about this. One, if you are supremely confident about a section and you want to get done with it right at the beginning to get confident or feel more confident, go for it at the beginning. So honestly, if you look at my live mock attempts, maybe a couple of years back, I would have attempted logical reasoning at the start, followed by visual reasoning, followed by verbal, followed by quant, because I consider quant to be my strongest section. That's why I want to attempt it at the very end, because that's basically when I would be in the flow. And I know that the amount of time that people are going to take to attempt 25 questions, I might be able to attempt 30 or 35 questions genuinely in that much amount of time. So I back myself to score well even when I have less time, right? I don't want to be under pressure when I'm solving logical reasoning, because anyway it's a difficult section for me. And uske saath mein, if I keep it for the end, then I'm most invariably going to make a shoddy job in that particular section, right? So don't do those kind of things. If you think like what I think, right? I always keep the best things for the end, right? The other way of attempting is what I have been doing recently. So this is just again something that I have tried to rejig just to show people that, okay, this is also a strategy that can be adopted, right? So in that strategy, what you can do is you can go for the easiest section at the beginning, and then as you build momentum, you can keep the difficult one for the end. Just make sure that you don't fall in love with the easiest section or your favorite section, because it's very easy for you to keep on pushing the benchmarks. You might say that, okay, quant is the one that I'm most comfortable with. I will attempt it for 35 minutes and then I will let go of quant. But वो 35 minutes में नहीं होता. At the end of 35 minutes, let's say you are at the 40th question. You will be like, अरे 40 questions हो गया है. Let's attempt 10 more questions and see what happens. And then you will take another 15 minutes to attempt those 10 questions. And these 15 minutes are the ones that you have borrowed from the logical reasoning section. So now you are stuck with a section which you don't like and you have less time to solve it. Now you are in big trouble. Okay? So don't do those kind of things. Be very disciplined in terms of time limits if you are going to attempt it in the order that as it benefits you, right? Your favorite section at the beginning, followed by your second favorite, then third favorite and least favorite, basically. Right? If it is completely jumbled and 1 to 200, you have no option but to go from 1 to 200. In that case, make sure that you're attempting only those questions that you're supremely confident about solving in a minute, right? अगर 1 मिनट के अंदर क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करने का कोई तरीका आपको नहीं पता है, let go of that particular question. You can always come back to it at the end. ऐसा नहीं होगा कि when you reach 200 all the other questions will be erased. This is not going to happen. You will be able to come back to that question. So don't take your ego to the computer lab and leave it outside with all your belongings, right? That's basically one statement that I generally tell people. Make sure that you're attempting only those questions that you're supremely confident of attempting in 1 minute. If you are in doubt, if you are seeing it for the first time, there is a question on cube cutting or paper cutting जिसमें holes वगैरह आ गए हैं. You are not aware of that question at all. Let go of that question in the first round. कितना भी easy question हो, second round में उसको देख लें. Don't worry. ठीक है? But make sure that you are attempting only the questions that you are familiar with in the first round. So that is very, very, very important. Always keep a track on the amount of time that you have and the number of attempts that you have made or where exactly you are in a particular section. Right? Now, let's say, for example, you have decided in your head that you have to go through all the easy questions first and then come back to some questions in case you have time left. Right? So, in case you go in with that kind of a thought, what you have to understand is every 30 minutes or so, you have to bet the 50th question. So, at the end of 30 minutes, let's say when the timer is showing 2 hours left, at that point in time, you should be at question number 50. Right? When the timer shows 1 hour 30 minutes left, you should be at question number 100. You should also mentally know that अगर वो timer बता रहा है कि 1 hour 15 minutes left, then where should you be? When the timer shows 1 hour 15 minutes left, you should ideally be at around 120-125 questions if you are going with 50-30 वाला approach. ठीक है? So make sure that you have visualized where the timer will be and what question number you will be. अगर jumbled paper आता है तो. If it is a broadly demarcated section based paper, like again what happens at most of your sim CETs, you will know that okay, I'm thinking of attempting logical reasoning right at the start. 60 minutes में 75 questions करने हैं. If someone just tells me that okay 15 minutes are done, where should you be? You should know that 15 minutes के अंदर I should be at question number either 12 or 15. वहाँ तक तो मेरे को होना चाहिए. ठीक है. If someone asks अरे 40 minutes हो गए, where should you be करके 40 minutes के अंदर you should be at question number either 48, 50, 52 के आसपास question number होना चाहिए. उतना awareness you should have. Right? You should not start thinking अच्छा 40 minutes हो गए हैं, I had planned for 75 minutes, I should be at question number 40. वो मैच करने अगर वहाँ पे बैठ गए ना तो then you will be in big trouble anyway. Right? So make sure that you are very well aware of where you should be at specific points in time so that you are not dependent on the timer to tell you कि अरे timer देखा फिर पता चला कि मैं slow जा रहा हूँ. Right? So don't do that. Subconsciously you should be aware of where you are and where you should be. In terms of guesswork, again, when to guess is a completely different story. Now, if there is a question that I'm absolutely unaware of, like I said, right, derivatives, integration, matrices, determinants, कुछ तो आता है जो पता ही नहीं है, statistics, जिसमें मेरे को idea ही नहीं है कि variance क्या होता है, standard deviation क्या होता है, and all those things, I have no idea about, right? Now, it's not going to happen that after 2 hours suddenly I will figure out कि अच्छा, variance is root of standard deviation, correct? So I don't know, right? If I will be able to get that kind of an insight during the test. So make sure that if you have absolutely no idea about a question, you can just guess mark something, mark it for review and go. अगर बहुत खराब लग रहा है तो, right? But guess something then and there is what I would suggest. Because at the end, you will not really be able to see all those questions that you have not marked. And उसको specifically mark करने जाओगे तो बहुत time लगेगा, right? So even the last Sim CET that I attempted, I could not mark 4 answers because I started marking answers randomly very late. Now if I knew that there is a DI set which I will not be able to solve without pen and paper, कुछ भी हो जाए I will not be able to solve without pen and paper, I should have simply marked C as my random answer and moved ahead in life. But I did not do that, right? So those kind of things you have to be very clear about and make sure that your guesses are also getting registered slowly, gradually as you are progressing. Now obviously there might be some questions you might want to visit in round 2. For those questions you need not guess. उसको बाद में आके guess कर लेना. But when there are 5 minutes remaining, make sure that you know how many questions you have not attempted yet. Practically 5 minutes के अंदर you will not be able to attempt more than 7 or 8 questions if you think about it practically. ठीक है? Maximum of 10 questions कर सकते हो अगर verbal है या वो क्या है या कुछ. ठीक है? But not more than 10 questions can be attempted in 5 minutes. Now if you have 20 questions that are not attempted and 5 minutes are left on the clock, I would strongly suggest that you understand what those 10 questions are that you are going to sacrifice anyway, mark all of them as some option which is your favorite and move ahead in life and attempt the remaining 10 questions. ठीक है? That's what I would strongly suggest कि कर लो. अगर RC का question है 5 minutes are left and you have 20 questions out of which 5 questions are from an RC, वो होने ही नहीं वाला, right? So just read the question, whatever you think is the best option, not too extreme. Go and mark that option and move ahead in life. Don't spend a lot of time on those questions. Okay? But make sure that your guesswork is also the guesswork game is also strong. And finally, reacting to surprises, as I mentioned earlier, the paper could be in the form of sections. It could be in the form of one big paper, 1 to 200. There could be some questions that are based on analogy and GK and physics and chemistry and geography and higher order math and all those kind of things. So don't feel bad that you have been asked something. People especially who are going to take it on the 10th and 11th. If you had heard from someone कि 9th का पेपर तो बहुत easy था, उसमें कोई derivatives का question ही नहीं आया, and 10th को you go and sit for the test and your first question is Boyle's law, which is not even higher math. Don't start feeling bad about yourself. ठीक है? It's fine. At the end of the day, they do that equipercentile normalization and it generally works. And with more people appearing for the test, it's definitely going to become, I would say, statistically more even is what I would expect. And that's why it should be a bit more fairer this year. That's my assumption here. Right? So whenever you come across a question which you might not have came across or which has not been reported at all in any of the previous tests or slots, don't feel bad about yourself. Don't feel rattled and all those things. Let go. Kuch nahi hone wala. That one question is not going to decide where you are going to end up. So make sure that you keep a sane mind and you move ahead in life. Okay? So that's basically what I had from my side. I'll take a few questions quickly from the chat and then I will stop the session. Okay? In spite of completing 80% of the syllabus, score is not going up than 100. So see, as I mentioned earlier, your score is going to be a function of how aggressive you are. Now, if your score is not going more than 100, there are two scenarios. Either you are attempting 120 questions confidently, जिसमें से you are getting some 90 correct, and the remaining 80 में से you are getting some 10-15 right, and that's why you are ending up with that 100 wala, right? Now you can't be attempting 110, 120 questions in 150 minutes in a test like CET. So why are you attempting 110, 120 questions? That is my next question. Now the reason could be many, right? Either you are trying to do it so slowly and with so much of conviction that you are wasting precious time, being sure that your answers are correct, and you're focusing a lot on accuracy, right? Again, that has not worked for you in the past, will not work for you in the future. Make sure that you are attempting questions with a lot of aggression. Aggression का मतलब क्या है? I'm not writing down 2 or 3 steps. I'm not cross checking. अच्छा 15 आ गया. Is 15 there in the options? और कोई option है क्या जो बीच वाले step में आया था? Did I calculate it correctly? So I'm not getting involved in those kind of things. I'm simply attempting questions as quickly as I can, right? So that is the first scenario. The second scenario is wherein you are over attempting and you are going too aggressive, and because of that you don't know which questions are right, which questions are wrong. You have attempted 160, 170 questions genuinely according to you, but your accuracy is somewhere in the 50%, right? 50-55%. In that case, try to figure out which questions could you have sacrificed. And वो questions जो sacrifice करने चाहिए थे, next time when you come across those question types, do not get involved or indulged in or do not indulge yourself in those question types. Let go of them quietly. Make sure that your genuine attempts are somewhere in the 140 or 150 with a good accuracy. Good accuracy मतलब 80%. And obviously, the one thing that you have to do is once you know what it feels like to crack that 110, 120, there will be no looking back, right? Because you know what it takes to get that 120. So next time your brain will automatically tell you that, okay, this question you should not solve because if you try solving this question, you are not going to end at a supra 100 level. And that's why you will automatically leave those questions. So it's a matter of habit. Depending on the strategy that you are following, try to tweak things a bit. Either be very aggressive or be thoda conservative if you are being over aggressive, and make sure that your attempt mix is somewhere around 130, 140 questions with at least an 80% accuracy. तो उतना अगर कर लोगे तो आई एम श्योर यू विल एक्सपीरियंस इट वंस. एक बार एक्सपीरियंस कर लिया, द नेक्स्ट टाइम विल बी वेरी इजी. सो डोंट वरी. ठीक है. कैन आई इंक्रीज माई वॉल्यूम? आई डाउट. Can I share a formula book? Honestly, we don't really have a formula book. Rishabh, shortcuts for quant, a lot of it is discussed in our courseware, wherein there is something called as smart cuts that we generally discuss. If you go through the live mock solving sessions, there will be a lot of shortcuts that would have been discussed there. If you look at the best of CET, mostly we are discussing shortcuts or alternative ways of solving questions there. And in the last minute revision series that is going to happen, again we'll be discussing smarter ways of solving questions. So that I think should be of help. Okay. Speed for solving questions of LR and quant is good, but can't make it in mock. Okay. So matlab, honestly, your speed is good, but you can't make it in mock. I'm assuming your accuracy is a bit low. So again, as I mentioned to Aishwarya as well earlier, make sure that you are not attempting it out of compulsion. कि अरे बहुत सारा attempt करना है करके मैं जाके कर रहा हूँ. Don't do that. Attempt fewer questions. मतलब instead of attempting 45 questions and getting 50% accuracy, because you are spending time on 45 questions, spend time on 35 questions, but get 90% accuracy. Right? I know it's very easy to say this, but 45 questions में 50% accuracy लेके एक आधा तुक्का बैठ गया तो भी you are at 24-25 marks. 35 questions में 90% accuracy लेके you are already at 30-31 kind of a score. And उसके आगे ही जाओ, मतलब another 2-3 marks you are at 32-33. तो वैसे करके ही 7-8 marks बढ़ते हैं. That is basically gold dust, right? CET में with a change in strategy you can't expect to double your score. तो 70 to 140 जाना is very difficult. But you can go from 70 to 90, 90 to 100 plus, 105 से लेके 110 तक, 120 तक, वैसे कर करके you can go, right? But of course try to maximize as much as you can in the last week. ठीक है. Recent mocks are a little difficult, so it will be a mix of everything. Honestly speaking, the SimCET 4, I think that I solved the other day, that I found it to be, honestly, I found it to be, I don't know which, I think it was 4 if I remember correctly, yeah. So I found it to be slightly easier than SimCET 2 that I had solved earlier, right? So, matlab wo variance will be there across mocks. So don't worry about it, it's fine. ठीक है. Daksh, you are scoring top 15 ranks, but the marks are between 120 to 135. Again, the point is, Daksh, try to look at the questions that you have not solved, right? So if there are fewer takers, let's say for example, there is a mock test provider जहाँ पे takers ही बहुत कम है, right? It happens. CET तक people lose seriousness and not a lot of people will take CET mocks. तो उस टाइम पे क्या करना है? Your competition is not going to be your rank, right? Your competition is going to be what did you do with a particular question. So if the question was easy and you have missed it, you have done a bad job even if you are rank 1 in that particular test, right? So rank becomes slightly irrelevant. See if you have done justice to the questions. If there were 115 questions which have been classified as easy or moderate, let's say, या फिर easy plus half of moderate, वो भी अगर 115 तक है and you have solved each and every one of them, it's good. Give yourself a pat on the back, it's fine. ठीक है? But if there are 150 questions which are classified as easy or moderate and you are at 105 marks, then of course you should have been at somewhere around 130 marks. तो वो gap है. तो try to understand which were the 25-30 questions which you should have prioritized and you didn't. Right? So that will basically be the competition. जहाँ पे भी takers कम है या percentile का issue है, your competition will always be with the test as a whole. And that's why I said SimCAT or SimCET के अंदर if I were to choose, SimCAT के अंदर there is a lot of content that you can learn. But SimCET के अंदर it's mostly going to be about strategy and improving from one SimCET to the other. वैसे हो. ठीक है? Are mock tests generally tougher than the actual test? Anand, again, honestly speaking, it's a mix of both, right? So at the actual CET as well, I would say that the test that I had taken, I was expecting a raw score of around 150, 152 marks. But when the scaled scores came out, it was scaled to 165. So I have a very strong suspicion that the topper generally gets scaled up or down or whichever is flat to 165, right? That is my, again, experience that I'm talking about. I might be wrong, but that is basically what I have seen over the last many years. I would not have believed that I would have got 165 in a particular test, honestly. ठीक है, unless I was extremely lucky. And 2-3 साल ऐसा हुआ कि 165 तक score चला गया, but I think my raw score should have been somewhere around 150 or 152. Right? So actual CET जो होगा, it will seem easier than the mocks, especially if you get the scores, right? But otherwise, mocks will be a mix of all different variants that you can get. So don't worry about it. ठीक है? Scoring 150, but English is very poor, ranging in 15s. How can I improve? Honestly, you have so much going for you. It would be a pity if you fall short by 1 or 2 marks and you score 15 in English, right? So 185 में से if you are scoring 150 और जो भी है 150 में से you are scoring 135 and you are getting 15 in English, then obviously some things you should do. So जो technical questions है ना, वहाँ पे try to focus. Grammatical errors में try to figure out what are the commonly made grammatical errors. There will be roughly 70-80 errors that people make or that are asked at the test. Make sure that you know these errors inside out. So make sure that वो वाला part is sorted. That is one thing. In terms of vocabulary, try to go through the 200-300 most asked words, the GRE word list that you have, anything, any word list that you have, you can go through it quickly. Those are quick fixes that you have, right? Again, in terms of critical reasoning, try to see what all things are there that you can improve. अगर verbal reasoning वाले questions आते हैं, assumption, inference, conclusion, strong argument, weak argument, probably true, probably false, ये सब question types के अंदर the accuracy is going to be low, तो उनके पीछे मत भागना. Whatever are the technically solid questions, जहाँ पे you can improve with effort, go for those questions and do justice to those questions. First day first slot है तो anxiety कैसे control करें? There is nothing to be anxious about. क्या करोगे anxiety करके, right? You have to deal with the test that has been given to you, तो वही करना है. So don't worry about what's going to happen. It's going to be similar to a SimCET that you take, right? तो SimCET जब देते हो तो आपके पहले किसी ने SimCET नहीं दिया होता, and there is no analysis or review of a SimCET that you are going to get, right? You just appear for the test. So वही करना है, just appear for the test. That's your only job. And believe, trust होना चाहिए थोड़ा सा कि things are going to be fair. You have to take that leap of faith that I keep on saying. कि paper setter हमारा भला ही चाहता है या चाहती है, and do it that way. So don't worry. Usually how many questions in the real CET are easy, moderate and difficult? So good question. It changes every year, to be honest, right? So ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब every year 120 questions will be easy, 50 questions will be moderate and 30 questions will be difficult. ऐसे नहीं होता. But typically if you ask me, in an average-ish CET paper, I would be expecting a raw score of around 140 marks to be in the 99.9th percentile. 140-145 के आसपास का raw score will definitely take you to that 99.92 या 99.93ish percentile, वो होता है. Now 140 को you have to work backwards. Now when I said that you should get all easy questions right plus half of the moderate questions, right? So 140 के अंदर I am assuming that you are getting some 5 to 10 marks on the depending on the guess work that you have made. तो let's say 5 क्वेश्चन में मेरे को गेस वर्क करके मार्क्स मिल गए, ठीक है? 5 क्वेश्चन में गेस वर्क करके मार्क मिल रहा है. 135 क्वेश्चन इज बेसिकली गोइंग टू बी द सम ऑफ इजी प्लस मॉडरेट डिवाइडेड बाय 2, ठीक है? तो लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल देयर आर 100 क्वेश्चंस दैट आर इजी, देयर आर 70 क्वेश्चंस दैट आर मॉडरेट एंड देयर आर 30 क्वेश्चंस दैट आर डिफिकल्ट. Then a good score to get in that particular CET is going to be 100 easy, all of them, plus 70 divided by 2. So 135 from here, and बाकी जो 30 है उसके अंदर से तुक्का मार के whatever 6 marks you are going to get, 140, 141 ऐसा score बनेगा, right? So typically on an average, whatever 9, 10 CETs I have taken over the last many years, I have seen this breakup to be the most consistent. Now obviously there are years like CET 2011 or CET 2017 जहाँ पे the paper becomes extremely difficult. Now in that case थोड़ा सा scale down हो जाएगा. Instead of 100 easy questions, I would be expecting somewhere around 70 easy questions. Instead of 70 moderate questions, I'd be expecting somewhere around 50 moderate questions. And instead of 30, I would be expecting somewhere around 70 or 80 difficult questions. वैसे, ठीक है? So वैसे करके you can think about it, right? But mostly if you ask me, 100, 70, 30 is going to be the split more or less. So 135, 140 is going to be a very good score. Lot of area and sectional tests in the last 1 week. Lot is always a bad word. तो lot नहीं करना है. Do what is realistic. ठीक है? So whatever you are confident about doing, whatever keeps your mind working and whatever keeps you happy and satisfied, उतना ही करो. Over exert करने का जरूरत नहीं है. ठीक है? I am scoring 55 from past 3 mocks. Is it possible now? See, again you have to understand how to hedge your bets. Now from 55, if you ask me कि JBIMS होगा कि नहीं, I'd be very apprehensive of giving a yes as an answer. Now obviously everything is possible or anything is possible, तो हो सकता है. But then again 55 to 140 जाना will be challenging honestly, right? But don't think about it that way. Think about it in terms of अगर मेरा 100 cross होता है raw score, right? If you are crossing 100, then you are most definitely going to cross a 90th or a 92nd percentile very easily when it comes to the scale score as well, or 95th in some cases. ठीक है? तो उतना परसेंट अगर मिलता है तो यू हैव अ वेरी गुड चांस ऑफ गेटिंग इनटू वन ऑफ द गुड पीजीडीएम कॉलेजेस. अगर 55 पे अटके रहोगे या 60-70 पे चले जाओगे, इवन दोस विल नॉट हैपन. सो मेक श्योर दैट यू आर थिंकिंग प्रैक्टिकली. एंश्योर दैट योर फर्स्ट गोल इज सिक्योरिंग दोस पीजीडीएम कॉलेजेस के कॉल्स व्हाटएवर यू कैन गेट आफ्टर योर टेस्ट, एंड देन द नेक्स्ट स्टेप विल बी टू लुक एट मे बी द टॉप 3, टॉप 5 इंस्टीट्यूट्स फॉर देयर एमएमएस प्रोग्राम. सो दैट इज वन थिंग दैट आई विल कीप इन माइंड. 100 का मेंटल बैरियर जो है वो क्रॉस करो फर्स्ट, एंड आई थिंक एवरीथिंग एल्स विल फ्लो. ठीक है? Anand, 15-20 marks से what is the best approach? I just mentioned, right? Vocabulary, right? So you were saying 15 marks in verbal. तो 15-20 marks से improve करने का सबसे easy तरीका is going to be for you, especially is going to be to focus on verbal. I believe I am addressing the same person, right? Even otherwise, if you look at it, 15-20 marks improve करना है. Look at those questions जहाँ पे you are spending a lot of time and getting it wrong, right? So पुराने mocks के अंदर जाके just look at what all questions are there जहाँ पे you are making a lot of mistakes and you are taking a lot of time. So for me those questions will be वही probably true, probably false, verbal reasoning वाले questions, very complicated logical reasoning sets, DI questions that involve a lot of random calculation जहाँ पे the options are also very close, right? So all those things are very difficult for me. So वहाँ पे if I am spending 2-3 minutes on an average and there are 10 such questions, I am spending 20 to 30 minutes on these questions and getting a return of 5 marks. Now I have to eliminate ये 5 marks का greed and focus my energies somewhere else, जहाँ पे if I invest more time, I am going to get a better return. तो वही है, return on investment ही है. ठीक है? I'll take a couple of questions and then I will close the session. Yeah, hi Gaurav. So score is coming around 90. How to improve? Again, same answer, so it's basically the same thing. Analyze each and every test and see which questions are there जहाँ पे you have taken more than 3 minutes. I am sure there will be a lot of questions जहाँ पे you have taken more than 3 minutes to solve that question. Write down all those questions जहाँ पे you have taken more than 3 minutes and ask yourself this question कि मैंने ये question क्यों किया करके. And next time when you come across those question, that kind of a question, let go of that question. सीधा. You are earning 3 minutes, right? So 100 marks, yeah, whatever. If you want to improve your score by 15, 20, 30 marks, you should not think in terms of marks. You should think in terms of time, is what I would suggest. जितना time waste नहीं करोगे on questions that do not benefit you, utna you are giving yourself a chance to solve more questions, and that is basically going to create that difference. So try to think about how to save time and marks will follow. Okay? So if you are scoring 100 in mocks, how much can I expect? Generally, it's not going to be a lot of variance. Plus or minus 20 marks is what I would think. So 120-ish is what I would think, Shubham, you will end up with if you are going to take the test today and if you are going to get the same amount of marks. According to me, your percentile will be somewhere around 98, 98.5-ish, maybe a borderline 99-ish is what I think. Okay? Let me know if I'm right when you take the actual test. I wish that you score a lot more than what the numbers that I said. But in case you end up somewhere there, then I will know that my instincts are fine. Okay. Chalo, okay. One more question, then I'll finish it. 1.5 minutes to solve one question. What should I do? Devin, 1.5 minutes for one question. So think about it in these terms, right? Quant के अंदर you are investing 40-45 minutes. 1.5 per minutes per question मतलब 30 questions अगर solve करोगे, make sure that you are getting 27 or 28 on 30. उतना conviction होना चाहिए. Then you are fine. If you are attempting 30 questions in 45 minutes and उसके बाद if you are getting 15 or 18 marks in those 30 questions, then it's of no use, honestly. ठीक है? I would suggest take 2 minutes, but try to get everything right. 22 questions solve करो, but perfectly करो, right? Instead of running behind 50 questions. But make sure that 40-45 का जो mental limit that you have put, that does not get exceeded. That is something that is very important. ठीक है? 135 from the last 3 tests. What should I do in the last 10 days, Shubham? Honestly, you are almost there on the right track. So whatever you have been doing has been working for you. Just make sure that, again, same thing will go for you as well. Look at those questions जहाँ पे you are spending 2.5 minutes and try to eliminate those questions and try to see if जो भी questions, whatever 35 questions that you have not solved genuinely, was there scope for some 5-10 questions from there to be swapped with these questions. That's the only question that you answer. 5 questions जहाँ पे you spent more than 3 minutes versus 10 questions that you did not solve. If that swap happens, you're already at 140, which is a decent score. Okay? So that should be good enough. Otherwise, keep on doing things that you have been doing. Try to see if there are some shorter ways that you have not been able to figure out, and you should be good too. Okay? Chalo. So I'll end the session now. Thank you so much for turning up, and I hope even the people who have joined us on Instagram, you were able to get some of your queries answered. So yeah, that's about it. So we'll close the session now. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope all of you do well. Stay tuned on our YouTube channel for all the activities that are going to happen in the coming week and for all the test analysis that we are going to do on the 9th, 10th and 11th. So hopefully we will have some people who would have taken it on all 3 days. So let's see how the analysis bit goes and how the sessions go, right? So yeah, wish you all the best for your test. Make sure that you are going through SimCETs. You have seen the live mock solving videos and you go through the last minute revision series that we are going to have in the coming week, right? So that should be good enough. And yeah, thank you all of you again, and wish you all the best with your preparation. And I hope all of you score really well at the CET. Bye everyone.